Good evening and welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA players, legends, and top instructors go to share their stories, insights, and playing lessons. Join Chris every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as he talks with the greats of the game. Tonight's show is sponsored by the French Lick Resort, Ben Hogan Golf, the PGA Tour Superstore, 2 Wonder, the Salt Creek Golf Retreat, TaylorMade Golf, the Bobby Jones Apparel Company, and Superspeed Golf. Now, here's your host, Chris Mascaro.
Hey, good evening, folks, and thank you for coming back and joining me tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, it's great to be back with you after an absolutely wonderful buddies golf trip last week. And shout out to my boys Angelo Kane and Bob Andriano. This was our 20th year of getting together and hanging out and playing golf together. Hopefully the other member of our foursome, Joe Lajanusa, is going to be back with us next year. I also want to send out a huge shout out to the folks at the Sandestin Resort over in beautiful Destin, Florida. Can't thank those folks enough for all the great things that they did. They've got 3 beautiful golf courses, the Links, Baytown Golf Club, and Raven Golf Club as well. All 3 are absolutely fantastic. The Links is right up there, right along the Chakawatchee Bay. It's so beautiful. Right there. You know, when you're playing the Links, you know, you're right there along the bay on a lot of the holes. Sometimes you've got some peninsula holes that you're playing where there are water on both sides. Absolutely stunning. We couldn't have had a better time. We also, when we were there, the Raven course, which we also played, was hosting a Sun Belt Conference golf tournament. So that was exciting to see. And the third course out there is Baytown Golf Club. Absolutely beautiful. All 3 courses were in great shape, and it was a blast playing all of them. Look, if you're looking for a great place to go stay, play, and enjoy yourself, please, folks, go online to sandestingolf.com so you can see what I'm talking about. Great folks, great golf courses, great places to stay, eat, and drink right around the resort as well. So had a great time. Can't thank those guys enough. All right, so on to tonight's show. Again, I'm excited to share 2 wonderful guests with you this week. And my first guest is going to be PGA Tour Pro Cameron Beckman. Cameron won the individual NAIA National Championship when he was at Texas Lutheran University back in 1991. So far out on the PGA Tour, he's got 3 victories. We'll talk about those. He's got the PGA Tour Champions coming right up around the corner. We'll talk about that. So we have a lot to get into tonight when Cameron joins me. He's going to be with me here in just a few minutes. Following him, I'm going to get a return visit from my good friend Mitch Laurance. And Mitch, as you guys all know, is the host of Talking Golf Getaways. He and his co-host Darren Bunch, they do a great job. They recently did a great podcast on Sweetens Cove, which is up in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. So it's a wonderful hidden gem and a great course. So looking forward to talking with Mitch about that and the conversation they had with the golf course architect Rob Collins. Sweeten Cove, again, it's a 9-hole course that was not only rated by Golf Week as one of the number one, I should say, golf course that you can play up in Tennessee, but also ranked in their top 50 that you can play across the country. So look forward to hearing that story. Plus, not long ago, Mitch had a very scary 8 seconds when his heart suddenly stopped beating. Thank God his wife Ava was there when it happened, or we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So there are some lessons and some warning signs that go along with that, which we'll learn from Mitch. So looking forward to having Mitch with me a little bit later on in this half hour. So a lot more great stories and information coming your way tonight on this edition of Next on the Tee. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and taking the journey with me tonight. Before we get started, as I always do, and again, Mitch's show, Talking Golf Getaways. I always want to remind you about that because he and Darren do such a great job. And again, they talk about great places. It's all about golf travel. So great places to stay, play, and even eat and drink while you're there. You can stream their show over on golftripx.com. Also available on Audio Boom, Stitcher, and Player.fm. So go there, check out their show, and again, learn about some of the great hidden gems we have to play around the country. His twin brother Matthew, a great friend of the show as well. He has his own great golf show called Backspin Golf, which airs Sunday mornings from 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time on WLXG ESPN Radio, AM 1300 up in Lexington, Kentucky. That show's so much fun to listen to because Matthew's fantastic, and so is Perry French, who is always there as his sidekick to start that show. Again, it's called Backspin Golf. You can stream it online at WLXG.com or do what I did, which is download the WLXG app. And folks, as you know, we're sponsored by the French Lick Resort. Let's hear a word from our good friend Steve Rondinero about what they've got coming up there this summer.
It's a Pete Dye masterpiece, the Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort. Pete says its location on one of the highest points in Indiana makes it special.
The long views. You can see maybe 20 and 30 miles from many of the fairways and many of the tees and greens, and you can see it in 360 degrees.
Donald Ross's Hill Course put French Lick on the golf map more than 100 years ago. It's where Walter Hagen won the 1924 PGA Championship, and the place where today's Symetra Tour ladies battle each year.
It's the ambience around it that makes the golf course.
Combine our many resort amenities with legendary golf, and you have a getaway like no other. French Lick Resort is the home of the Senior LPGA Championship, won in 2018 by World Golf Hall of Famer Laura Davies. Play the courses champions play. Plan your trip now online at FrenchLick.com.
Yeah, folks, go online to FrenchLick.com to see for yourself what a wonderful place they have up there and to book your stay as well. I also want to tell you about our good friends at the Ben Hogan Golf Equipment Company. Now, folks, if you haven't hit Ben Hogan irons since maybe the 80s or the 90s, do yourself a favor and get a demo iron of either their Fort Worth, PTX, new PTX Pro, or Edge irons. So go out on the range and compare it to whatever it is you have. Now, all Ben Hogan irons and wedges are handcrafted one at a time in their Fort Worth, Texas factory, so no mass production, no shortcuts. Now you can order custom-made irons, wedges, and hybrids by going online to benhogangolf.com, and they're going to build those clubs to your specifications, and best of all, charge you a fraction of the typical retail price. Again, check out their complete line of forged irons, wedges, utility irons, hybrids, bags, and accessories online at benhogangolf.com. Please also check out our friends at the Bobby Jones Apparel Company by going online to bobbyjones.com. They've got their summer collection out. The thoughtful selection is rooted in character and endurance, and the signature details, colors, and fabrications remind you that you are well on the way to the game you were meant to play on the course and the course of life. Check out their summer collection online at bobbyjones.com. All right, folks, now joining me here on the French Lick Resort guest line is PGA Tour pro Cameron Beckman. Let me give you a little more background on Cameron. He is from Minneapolis, Minnesota, played his college golf at Texas Lutheran University, where he won the NAIA National Championship in 1991, turned pro in 1993. He was a Lone Star Tour Player of the Year back in 1994, earned his first win on the PGA Tour at the Southern Farm Bureau Classic in 2001, finishing that tournament 19 under par, winning by one stroke over Chad Campbell. He has two other wins on tour at the 2008 Prize.com Open and the 2010 Mayakoba Golf Classic. He's currently playing out on the Web.com Tour, and I'm very excited he is with me tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Cameron, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me on. Yeah, you're really you're jogging my memory at all those good times I had.
Well, that's good. That's what we're here to do. Let's talk about the good times.
1991 was a long time ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah, to some of us it is, and some of us it's right around the corner, right? Not that far behind if you really think about it. It's a blink of an eye a lot of times.
It seems like time is slow, that's for sure.
Cameron, I want to start by going back to the beginning for you. I always like to ask a first-time guest, when you started playing the game of golf, and who was the first person to put a club in your hands?
It was actually my mother. She was a teacher, and we lived on a par 3 golf course, and I spent pretty much all summer with her playing it's called Burnhamwood, and it was just right in our neighborhood, and I went out there every day and played, started pretty young, and just played with her, and my father never was able to play. He always had a little bit of back problems, so he'd walk along, and that's how I got started playing golf.
So, Cameron, how does a kid from Minneapolis, Minnesota, end up playing his college golf down at Texas Lutheran?
Well, I got lucky, actually, because the coach there at the time was from North Dakota, and he was recruiting good players from Minnesota and North Dakota and those areas. And I had qualified for the U.S. Junior Amateur the year before I went to college, and he had noticed that and offered me a half scholarship to go down there, and it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. Looking back on it, I met my wife there. It completely kind of formed my whole life, basically. Having played the tour, and it's one of the best decisions, I guess, is you could say, because I was thinking about playing hockey in college also. So it was the best decision I've ever made, I guess you could say.
And Cameron, talking about 1991, you win the individual NAIA National Championship that year. What was it like for you coming down the stretch knowing that you had an opportunity to win yourself a national championship?
Yeah, I'd won a couple, quite a few tournaments that season, and I was, for some reason, I just really wanted to play the tour, and I say that, of course, everybody wants to play it, but I was so focused and just, I spent a lot of time in college practicing and working, and I figured if I could win that tournament, that would be a huge step, and I don't know, I was terribly focused. It's been a long time ago, and I don't really remember much about it, to be honest with you, but I just really wanted to win. I felt like, these were just stepping stones to making the tour someday. And so, I used to think, I wanted to know if I was leading and see how my golf swing would hold up and things like that. That's the type of stuff I was thinking about.
And Cameron, I don't know if you remember or not, but, when you think about having come down and had that experience of winning such a big tournament and becoming a national champion, did that prepare you for what it would be like for you coming down the stretch trying to win, whether it was on the web.com, at the time, I'm sure it was the Nike.com tour, but trying to win there and ultimately winning on the PGA Tour? Did that experience help prepare you for what the nerves and all that would be like?
Yeah, I think so. I went on to, I turned pro right after college and started playing, and I played the Lone Star Tour in Texas and won a bunch of those tournaments, and then I won the Texas State Open. But it took me 6 years to get my card. I spent a ton of time playing the mini tours, the state opens, and I was playing a ton of tournaments, and I was shooting pretty much 75 when I got to college. That would have been a good score for me, and improved quickly as a freshman, and then I started winning right away in the mini tour ranks, and pretty much that's all I'm thinking about and doing. And like I said, it took me 6 years to get my card.
And to that end, yeah. So to that end, I know you made it through Q School a number of times. You mentioned 6 times to get your card. And, and talking to several other players, both on the PGA and the LPGA side, they've talked about the opportunities and what it was like getting through Q School, and many times talking about how it was more stressful and more difficult to get through Q School than it was to compete out on tour. Was that the same for you? What was it like trying to get through Q School for you?
Yeah, so, second stage was the tougher one, because if you didn't make it to the finals, you had nothing. But at least if you made it to the finals, you'd get some sort of web, or we'll call it web now, web event or web tour type card. But it took me a long, I went through 5 of them before I got my card, and I only got to the finals once in 97. But all those experiences and all that pressure just kept me, I kept learning how to do it. And then I was fortunate to actually get my card back in 99, 2000, and 2001. So I did it 3 years in a row, which, getting to play on the tour for 3 years in a row was huge, because I got to play with the best players in the world. I learned so much, and then I ended up winning in 2001, which kind of jump-started me and got me cranking. But, there's, just in order to really play tournament golf, you've got to play a bunch of them. You got to get in situations. You got to, learn how to, there's just so much to learn, because your body does different things every day, and you get nervous. You got to figure out how to deal with that. And so I was fortunate, looking back, that I had sponsors that stuck with me, and then I ended up being able to play that much. There was many times through the years where I was thinking I was going to quit. And looking back on it, my dad would never let me do it. So, it was just there were so many times where I could have changed my whole life, basically, but if I wouldn't have played golf. So looking back, it's an interesting how it all went down to, getting to play so many years on tour and things like that.
And you mentioned dealing with the nerves. How did you eventually get comfortable in that situation and deal with the nervousness of coming down the stretch?
I worked with Deborah Graham. She's a psychologist who lives in San Antonio. I spent a lot of time training my brain to really enjoy the tour school. So most people would dread that. And, all those years I was trying to really almost there's so much pressure on you, and then let it go and enjoy the whole process of it, the challenge of it. I spent so much time trying to figure out how to think right so that you could give yourself a chance. It's such a big deal. I was trying really hard, or we were working on, basically bringing it down a few notches so that I could deal with it. And I played really good the 3 years in a row at all the tournaments. And and another thing is I really wanted to play the tour. And I spent a ton of time. I still work really hard at it, getting ready for kind of the Champions Tour. I love to play the game. So all this came really easy for me because just how much I love to play it. So, and how much I wanted to do it, I guess. So the pressures, you get like tapping in on when I was winning the tournaments I won, I had a 3-footer. Just to give you an example, my hands were shaking so bad at the prize. I hit my little tap in, but that wasn't 3 feet, it was 2 feet. I hit it off the heel, and I thought I almost missed the ball. I was so nervous. So that's the kind of nerves you're dealing with, and we all know that, anybody who plays golf, and it's fun. You got to learn to love it. And so that's basically the mindset I was using to be successful at the tour schools.
Hey, so Cameron, I want to get into a little more detail about your first PGA Tour victory at the Southern Farm Bureau Classic back in 2001, and you won that tournament. And charging down the back nine, you birdied 3 of the final 5 holes. What was it like making that charge and then finally sealing your first PGA Tour win?
Yeah, that's so that season I had just played good somewhere. I can't remember where, but I had secured my card for the next year, so it was the first time I'd really been able to pretty much freewheel and play in golf tournaments without worrying about keeping my job. And I remember that Sunday I was standing in the first tee. I was really relaxed. I felt confident about it. That golf course I've had a ton of good finishes on since then, but I love the golf course. And it was just, I made a ton of putts. I putted great. I don't know. It was just the frame of mind was so right. And, of course, like I said, I wanted it so bad. It's hard to explain. I think I birdied 17 to take the 1-shot lead up, and then I just had to par 18, which is a par 5. So it was, and thankfully my wife was there. She had flown in that morning, and we obviously had a good time after that day, or that night. It was a good time.
Are you a scoreboard watcher? Were you aware going on 18 that, all you had to do was make par and you were going to win this tournament?
Well, I was playing with Chad, and he actually, we had to lay up because it was into the wind on 18 there at Annandale. And he hit first, and he spun it back off the green. So I knew that, he's chipping. So I was pretty, I wasn't positive, obviously. He could have still chipped it in, but I just hit it on the green, and I had a 10-footer or something like that. I just had to 2-putt that to win after he missed his chip. But so that was nice. What were you wondering? Say that again about how it all went.
I just was curious. Were you a scoreboard watcher? Did you know?
Oh yeah.
On 18 that if I make par, I'm going to win.
Yeah, because I was playing with Chad. That's kind of what I was getting at. Is that when I knew nobody else was, I had looked at a couple holes before. I think he and I were up in front by a couple shots, and so I was pretty sure that it was just he and I. And Chad's a good friend of mine. I've always liked him. He's a good dude, and he had just come off I think he was playing. I think he had won got the Battlefield promotion from the Web Tour, and was playing some tournaments late in the fall there, and I'm pretty sure that was like his first season on tour, and we've been good buddies ever since.
Cameron, Sean McKeel has become a wonderful friend, here on the show, and he just turned 50 back in January. That's not typically a birthday anybody looks forward to, but I know Sean was, so that he could, and you mentioned going out on the Champions Tour. He has been looking forward to the opportunity to go out and play on that tour. You've got a little over 9 months until you turn 50. Are you looking forward to 50 or no?
I am. I've been, I'm hoping, a lot of people tell me to just be patient. It's kind of like starting your career over. And I'll tell you what, this golf course we're playing at this Web is 7,600 yards. I'd like to get down into the 6,800 instead of 7,600 or 7,000, So, I'm looking forward to it. The last 5 years have been tough. I haven't been playing much. There's not a lot to play for as far as I enjoyed trying to keep my card. I like trying to stay out there. I like all that stuff. So I'm sort of looking forward to getting a little, kind of a rejuvenated type career where I can work towards something again. And it's been a great 5 years in that I've got to raise my kids and watch them grow up. So no complaints on that, but I am looking forward to, trying to be competitive out there and get back out there and play a lot. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to right now.
Some of the other things, Cameron, as I was looking back over the course of your career at the 2010 Byron Nelson Championship, you tied the course record shooting 61 in the second round. And at one point during that round, you birdied 5 holes in a row, 6 out of 7 as well. And you birdied 16 to conceivably, had you birdied 17 and 18, you could have shot 59. Were you aware, was 59 on your mind coming down the stretch?
Yeah, I think I birdied 7. Can't remember if that was 16 or I think it was 7. And then, I was definitely thinking about it. I remember thinking about trying to make the putt on the last hole for 60, but, it was one of those days where all the putts were going in, and you see it all the time now where, guys have those days where they're just everything seems to be going right. And I had finished in the morning. I think we had a rain delay, so I had played like maybe 4 or 5 holes in the morning before that round, and I felt good then, and I just took it right into the 18 holes in the afternoon, and it was obviously a lot of fun.
And yeah, as I looked at the leaderboard, you ended up finishing 5th that week behind Jason Day, but that was also the tournament where Jordan Spieth at age 16 tied for 16th. Did you get a chance to meet a young Jordan Spieth and have any conversation with him at that tournament?
I did not get to meet him. In fact, I've never met him. He's kind of came onto the tour after I've been off, and I've just never met him. I know he's a great kid, and I say kid, he's obviously much more than that, but just a good person, and I'd like to meet him. I just never have.
Hey, Cameron, looking back at some of the other tournaments you played in 2000, you were there at the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach when Tiger essentially lapped the field by 15 strokes. What do you remember about being a part of that event?
Oh, yeah, that was a great, that was, to play Pebble Beach in the U.S. Open was really a neat thing. And, of course, he played awesome, and it was fun. I got to play in his era. I played a lot of tournaments with him and played with him, and it's really good to see what he's doing right now. It's just so great for the game, and it's fun to watch, that's for sure.
And Cameron, when you look at life out on, you're out on the web.com tour playing now, the PGA Tour, and looking obviously ahead to the Champions Tour, but how do the tours compare to now for when you first came out there with all the amenities and the equipment trucks and the fitness trailers and all of that sort of stuff? Was it like that when you first came up on tour, or has the tour evolved a lot over the last, go back to 01, 18 years or so?
Yeah, it's evolved a ton. It's there's always been the equipment stuff and the trailers and that, but now it's such a high. You can just see the club manufacturer. There's a lot of pressure on them to get players to use stuff. It's just a lot more. It's much more intense. We got guys using TrackMans and stuff like that. Nobody would ever even thought of that. All the working out. It's just it's a much more routine-oriented type golf, I would say now. Everybody's kind of into their own thing. We used to go out and have go out and have a beer, or go out and have fun. It just doesn't feel like that anymore. It's just, I think because the money is, we're playing for a lot of money, and so they're taking it very seriously, and it's just a totally different environment. And but the kids they're young. There's a lot. I mean, I was 29 when I started, and that was I guess I would be considered old now compared to these kids, but it's just a lot more serious. I mean, I don't know that it's exactly serious, but it's not the same. I think it's because of the money, and it's just changed the tour. And obviously, the tour is doing great, and it's a great organization, and it's a great place to play, that's for sure. And it's been fun watching it evolve, to be honest with you.
Cameron, just a couple of more before we let you go, and let's talk about the advancements in technology. At 49, are you hitting the ball the same distance or further than when you first came out on tour? How has technology changed your game?
Yeah, I'm definitely hitting it. I hit it at least as far, if not further now. Just doing the conditioning, the stretching. I do a lot of yoga and the Peloton and do all this. I'm in much better shape than I was back then, even though I was young. I mean, I say that I was younger and obviously stronger, but just the technology, the balls don't curve as much. It's a totally different game. The balls are flying higher. We were taught to keep the ball down. You would never hit the ball straight up in the air because you wouldn't know where it was coming down. I watch these kids now, and it scares me how high they hit the ball. And, the distances are just crazy also, obviously. Hitting it any kind of 330 in the air, that would, that's, to me, is just nuts. And obviously everybody knows that it's fun to watch. And I think the tour decided at some point they kind of got rid of the rough on the tour. It's more fun for the player or the audience to watch guys hit it 350 yards, and make birdies. And so that's one of the things I've noticed playing is that the rough is down. There was tournaments where we'd play when we had to pitch out if you hit it the rough. There was so much rough. It's coming a long way, and I think it's a great product, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Have the advancements in technology impacted your game outside of just pure distance? What else are you seeing from a technology standpoint? You mentioned TrackMan earlier. What else are you seeing that has changed the game? I grew up with a hidden woods. The little bitty, the real woods. These kids, even my son, he hits it a long ways just because he's never had to deal with the snap hooks or any of the, that little head. So they get to bang on it right away, And I think that's pretty much what's changed. That's why you're seeing so much power, is because the club heads are so much easier to hit than way back when. And that's one of the things that I think is a big deal. And the ball doesn't curve as much. I would say that's another part of it. And, even the putters are so much better. They're easier to putt with. Just everything's, they just made the game easier. And to me, they've made it more fun. So I'm all for it. I think it's great. I love watching the guys bang it. I don't have a problem with it at all. So as you mentioned a couple of times throughout the course of the interview so far, you're playing out on the web.com tour. You're over in Nashville this week for the Nashville Open? That's
it, yep. Golf course is the Nashville Golf Club or Golf and Athletic Club, I think it is. Really nice place.
Cameron, let our listeners know, how can they stay up to date with all the great things you're doing and follow you online or on social media?
Yeah, I'm I do the Facebook stuff and a little bit of the Instagram, but I'm kind of old school. I'm not totally really involved in all that stuff yet, but I'll be going to the tour school for the Champions Tour in the fall, and hopefully I'll have some success there and get right into it and start playing next year. But other than if I don't do that, I'll be doing Monday qualifiers, and I'll get into some events, and that's about it. Other than that, I'll be just raising those kids at home,
Well, Cameron, it has been great having you as part of the show tonight. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening over there in Nashville to come and join me. I hope you'll come back and do it again sometime. Love to keep track of all the great things you're doing.
Oh, anytime. I enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for having me out.
You bet. Cameron, all the best to you and your family. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
See you, Cameron. That is Cameron Beckman. And again, he's over there in Nashville at the Nashville Open over on the web.com tour this weekend. Looking forward to getting him out on the Champions Tour. He's got about 9 months until he turns 50, so we'll look forward to catching up with him there. But in between now and then, please check him out on Facebook, Cameron Beckman, and let's hope that we get the privilege of having him back on the show again real soon. All right, before I get to my next guest, Mitch Laurance, I want to remind you about a few of our sponsors. And first, well, folks, TaylorMade Golf has done it again. The all-new TaylorMade M5 and M6 drivers have arrived, and what a story. They both feature speed-injected twist face created through a revolutionary manufacturing process where every single head, and I do mean every single head, you heard David Abeleys talk about it here on the show a couple of months ago, each head is injected and calibrated to the threshold of the legal limit. Basically, every head is made to be tour spicy, so speed for all of us. Now available. Check them out online at TaylorMadeGolf.com. And folks, this segment of the show is sponsored by our good friends over at the PGA Tour Superstore.
This segment of the show is brought to you by the PGA Tour Superstore. See why golfers everywhere are proud to call PGA Tour Superstore their golf pro shop. Visit them online at PGATourSuperstore.com. Now back to Chris and more of the show.
And now back with me here on the French Lick Resort guest line is my good friend Mitch Laurance. You hear me mention his show, Talking Golf Getaways, every week at the top of the show because, A, I'm a huge Mitch Laurance fan, and B, his show is just simply fantastic. His show marries golf and travel and all the great places out there that we get to go eat and drink, and they give you some really great, expert advice about where to go around the country, about some of the hidden gems, which we're going to talk about tonight. The show is available as a podcast on Golf Trip X, and that's the letter X. So golftripx.com. You can also find it on Audio Boom, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Player.fm, all the great places that you have out there to go find podcasts. I'm pretty sure you're going to find Mitch's show available on there as well. And beyond the show, you probably recognize his name and all the great things that he did as an actor on TV shows and in movies like Santa Barbara, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, One Tree Hill, Dawson's Creek, From the Earth to the Moon, my favorite of all time, In Living Color, Not Necessarily News, and LA Law. And rumor has it, Mitch is a great disc jockey as well, so I'm thrilled to have this generation's Wolfman Jack back with me here next on the tee. Good evening, Mitch. Your talents never cease to amaze me, my friend.
Oh, you are good. You really are good. Not just pulling the DJ thing out, but the Wolfman Jack reference. I mean, really, really. If I didn't have a phone in one hand, I'd be applauding you right now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. So, Mitch, all the many great things that you have going on. First of all, I want to start about a story, for what I consider to be the best golf picture in the history of golf pictures. And that's the one of you teeing off at El Campeon, the course there at Mission in Florida. Give us the behind the scenes, what's behind that picture. And for all of our listeners, go check it out on our website, nextonthetee.net. But Mitch, talk about what that picture is all about.
Well, it did turn out to be, you said it's your favorite, and I have to say it's probably mine also. My podcast partner, Darren Bunch, and I went down we were at the PGA show, and we had made arrangements to go to Mission Inn. And for your listeners, if you haven't, I hadn't really heard of Mission Inn before we went. And what's stunning about that is that it's literally half an hour from Orlando. And this golf course, which was built many, many decades ago, it was nowhere on my radar. And we had talked to the Drew Toth, his name is, and he's the he's the head marketing guy at Mission Inn. And Darren and I drove over, and you're out there just kind of driving around Central Florida, and you get to this place called Howey in the Hills, Florida, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And we got there, and it's kind of, the whole complex was built, the accommodations and the restaurants and stuff were all built kind of, I would say probably 40, 50 years ago. And they have a feel to them that's unlike anything you find in Orlando, certainly. The guy, Howie, the guy who bought the land originally, had been to Spain, and he loved Spain. So he designed all the accommodations and everything based on Spanish architecture. So it has a very different feel. And Darren and I were at the time doing our golf getaways portion of our careers together. I had a podcast that I was doing by myself. Darren was running the Golf Getaways website, and we were going to be filming content, some video stuff at Mission Inn. So naturally, because as you know, I'm a Hickory player and so is Darren, we went to El Campeón because it's got an incredible history. It's really a magnificent golf course. And unlike Central Florida and Orlando in particular, the thing that really distinguishes it is that the elevation change there is stunning. You kind of get an idea when you look at that picture that you're talking about, but there's in spots 100 feet of elevation change, which is, you don't even think you're in Florida. So we went out, as we often did, really early to get the best light. And the sun was coming up, and I was in my +4s, and I was down on a lower tee box, and Darren was up at the top, and he just started snapping pictures from that spot. And that's where the picture came from. And I absolutely can't recommend this place highly enough to your listeners. And as a matter of fact, you talk about the golftripx.com website. Our other partner, Ryan Ballingy, who's responsible for Golf Newsnet, has a great piece up there about his first trip to Mission Inn. And it's really worth reading because he captures what the place is all about and the history and the kind of quirkiness of the golf course and the greens complexes. It's a fantastic place. And that picture, pretty much for me, every time I look at it, I just smile. It was an amazing, amazing morning.
Yeah, and it's a great picture. I love it. It's like I say, it's out on our website, and boy, I tell you what, you say you're not familiar with Howie in the Hills, and I spent 12 years living in the Orlando area, so I am familiar with that part of. Yeah, so I am familiar with that area, and it is like no other place in the state of Florida. To your point about the elevation changes, when we think about Florida, we think about. I have not. I'm disappointed to say, but I tell you what, after seeing that picture and hearing the story behind it, it is certainly on my list of places to go play. Looks great.
Yeah, you'll love it. You'll love it.
Mitch, your recent Emergency 9 episode about Sweetens Cove, which is a beautiful 9-hole course in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, designed by Rob Collins, who was a guest with you. And even though it's only a 9-hole course, Golf Week ranked it the #1 best course that you can play in the state of Tennessee, and I believe amongst the top in the country as well. But talk about the course and your conversation with Rob.
Well, we were lucky to have Rob on. Darren had been over to Sweetens. He went by himself, and I forget the number of holes he played in a day and a half, but it was stupid. It was pure Darren golf. He played something like 60 holes in a day and a half.
Oh, my.
Yeah, but he got to spend some time with Rob. I knew about Rob. I had known about Sweetens Cove. I have yet to go, but I'm going to have a chance in August, which we'll talk about. But when Darren came back, he was raving about Rob and what an amazing guy he was. And so we had a chance to have him on. We did 2 podcasts with him. The first one is, I don't know, probably a little over an hour of Rob, which is so worth it. We could have gone on for more hours. He is just an incredible guy. He's one of these, I like to think of this new wave of kind of architects that are coming along in the game that we're all benefiting from. And Rob is right up there. And, guys like, I don't want to leave anybody out, but Keith Rebb and Riley Johns and Keith Cutton. And there's a bunch of these guys that really get it, to me. They really get what golf should be, and they're trying to make it public and affordable and fun. That's the only way I can put it. And Rob's one of those guys. He's got a great background. He worked for Gary Player Design, and then he worked for an architect named Rick Robbins, who most people don't know, but if you Google Rick Robbins and you look at his ridiculous resume worldwide, you get an idea of where Rob came from. And he took this place in, South Pittsburgh outside of Chattanooga, and pretty much single-handedly, they had a chance. There was a golf course there, but just on a flat piece of ground. And the owners didn't want to do anything with it, and they pretty much just gave it to Rob and said, if you can make something happen, go ahead. And he and his partner, Tad King, it's where King Collins Golf comes from, the two of them started a number of years ago to put this together, and they literally built a 9-hole golf course that is, as you said, think about this statistic. Not only is it rated by Golf Week the number 1 public course in Tennessee, forget the 918, it's the number 1 public course in Tennessee. It was ranked by Golf Week number 50 on the top 100 modern courses you can play, ahead of places like Valhalla, Quail Hollow.
Wow.
You go down the bottom 50 list, and it's ahead of some, PGA Tour stop venues, sites of majors, and it's a 9-hole golf course. So all you really need to know is that the 9 holes are incredibly interesting. The architecture is everything that I've read about it, and Darren kind of confirmed this, that when Augusta National was built, these holes are similar to a lot of them. They have a lot of different characteristics too, but there's parts of them that are really similar to what Alistair McKenzie was trying to do. And I think Rob's such a student of history, and he's such a great guy. If you listen to the 2 podcasts, the first one and then the Emergency 9, you really get a feel for who this guy is. And Sweetens is an extension of who he is. They don't have I think my favorite part about Sweetens with these accolades, nobody really knew about it. It opened in, I think, 2014. And then there's a great writer named Dylan DeChair who did an article in the New York Times about Sweetens Cove called A Little Course That Could. And he wrote it in 2017. And once that article came out, things started exploding. And what I love about it is there's basically the 9 holes and a shack. They call it the shed, which is the clubhouse. There's no indoor plumbing. There's just an outhouse out back. There's no amenities. This is literally just pure golf. And when we talked to Rob about it, because the most exciting news for him, and I don't know if you saw this, but recently it was announced that there's now an investment group that has come in and they're putting money into Sweetens. And it's not just any investment group. There's, I think, 5 partners, but 2 of them are Peyton Manning and Andy Roddick, the tennis player. And when you say the name Peyton Manning in Tennessee,
right,
obviously, it kind of means something. So Rob was beside himself. He didn't really know. There were people interested and had been talking, but he went to dinner one night, and there was Peyton Manning and Andy Roddick, and he sat down and he said, "What's going on?" And they pretty much said, "We're your new partners." So they're going to be putting some money into the place, but they're not doing anything to take away the feel of what they have there. He said, "We're going to keep the shed. We may get some indoor plumbing. We may have a bathroom inside," that's so Rob. But they're kind of keeping it that way. They're not going to really change. They may add a few things to it. They're going to put a huge putting area, much like Thistle do at Pinehurst, and just different. There's a lot of them that are springing up now, obviously, and so they're going to put that in. They're talking about doing some really cool lodging around the outside, but they're not making any changes. They're not adding 9 more holes or anything like that. They may put a short course, like a 6-hole or 9-hole par 3 course. And I said to him, "All right, so you're telling me that you're going to put a short course at the short course," basically.
Right.
So that's kind of the way they think. And I just, like I said, Darren, absolutely, and anybody who's been there, if people go online, they can find a ton of content now about Sweetens Cove. But we're going to have great content because in August, Rob came up with the idea of renting the golf course out, which not many places can do. So you can rent the golf course out. You can do this. If you get 10 of your friends, you say, "Okay, we're taking it for the day." You come up with the money, which is not a ton. And we did that. And on August 23rd and 24th, we're having our Golf Trip X Sweetens Cove shootout. And we've taken the golf course for 2 days. We put it up about probably a month ago, and we've already got a bunch of people who signed up. I think we have about 10 spots left. And it's going to be 2 days of unlimited, crazy, fun, ridiculous golf. And it's literally like just having the place to yourself. So we're really excited. We're going to get a lot of content out of it so people learn more when we're there. If people have a chance to go before that, that obviously would be a big deal. So
for our listeners who are now dying to be a part of this event that you guys are putting on, how can they go online and get more information about it?
All they have to do is go to golftripx.com. That's the letter X, golftripx.com. And right there on the home page, there's a link, and you can sign up. And I recommend doing it. We got some great prizes. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on over those 2 days. One of the things about Sweetens that's fantastic, they recently added a second flag on the 9 holes, on each of the 9 holes. So you can go out in the morning, play it to one, the left pins, say, and then go out after and play to the right pins. But they pretty much, when you have the course to yourself, Rob said, we can do whatever we want. We can play cross country. We can play from one tee to a different green, which we'll be doing. We're going to have a lot of contests, and there's obviously going to be some nighttime activities going on, which will be really fun.
Wow.
And these greens are crazy. These greens are crazy, and we're going to have so much fun. We're going to have putting contests and all kinds of stuff. And among the prizes, excuse me, Chris, among the prizes, we have managed to get, that Darren and I are huge Mike Strands fans.
Yes.
And Mike built Tobacco Road and a number of other great courses. And Mark Stewart over at Tobacco Road has been kind enough. One of the prizes is going to be for a foursome, a stay at the Stewart Cabin by the 14th green at Tobacco Road and golf at Tobacco Road. And then we also have 2 nights and golf down here in Myrtle Beach at 2 other ridiculously great Strands courses, Caledonia and True Blue. So those are prizes, and there'll be other ones too. But it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be more fun than you should be allowed to have over 2 days. That's the only way I could say it.
And for our listeners, just to be clear, go on golftripx.com, go over to the play tab and down to the Golf Trip X events, and then you've got the opportunity to sign up and get one of those last 10 spots. Mitch, I want to change gears just a little bit. And one of the newer ways that people are getting introduced to the game of golf is through Topgolf. You've got locations there in Myrtle Beach. We have them here in Atlanta. You guys recently did an episode about Topgolf. Talk about what Topgolf is doing to help bring more people into the game.
Well, it's interesting because to me, and I had been to a couple of other Topgolf facilities in Charlotte and in Las Vegas, and I enjoyed them. I had fun. We had a couple of people. We had a good time. I hadn't really clicked into what it's really going to mean over time. And then they opened the one in Myrtle Beach just a month ago, probably. And I got to talk to the director of operations here in Myrtle Beach, and we were just talking. And when I was researching Topgolf and what it's doing, I realized it's not a flash in the pan. It's not just some kind of quick thing that's just going to fade away. And when I was there in Myrtle Beach when they opened it, because it's a different kind of venue for Topgolf, and I think a key to why it's going to help people get into the game. Most of the venues are 102 bays in the bigger cities, and Myrtle Beach is one of the first ones that only has 72. And they really wanted to see, was it going to work? Is it enough? Or are we going to be crowded? Whatever. It's been jammed here ever since they opened. And when I went over, I've been over there 3 or 4 times, and it's not just, a couple of golfers hitting balls at targets. It's families, it's young kids, it's young parents with babies in a stroller. It's literally, I was blown away by the one here. And I think they'll get their share of summertime traffic here in Myrtle Beach, which is also good because it's going to bring families into it. But in the high seasons of fall and the spring in Myrtle Beach, you know, they're going to be jammed at night when guys get off the golf course and they want to go and they want to sit and eat and drink and bet and do what they do. I think it's going to be a huge hit. And they now have Myrtle Beach was the 53rd Topgolf. And they're now getting ready to expand into Mexico, into Canada, Dubai. I mean, these guys aren't kidding around. And they've got a very forward-thinking team. And I think, just personally, you know, I'll tell you a quick story, and this really clicked in when I went. Charlie Reimer, who I'm sure you're aware of, Golf Channel personality, former tour pro. Charlie Reimer now lives in Myrtle Beach. And we had the South Carolina ratings panel, of which I'm a member, we had an awards dinner. And Charlie, this was probably 6 weeks ago, Charlie was the speaker, the featured speaker. And he's fantastic, by the way. If you ever get a chance to just hang with Charlie and listen to him talk, he is off the charts, a great guy, and really, really has his mind right about golf. But he was somebody asked him a question about the state of the game. And all of us who are involved always talk about it. Is it growing? Is it not? Whatever. And Charlie said, you know, it tends to be flat. We lose players, we gain players. We lose. He said, but now we're at a critical point because the generation that's older, who have typically been a lot of golfers in this baby boomer age, and I'm including myself in this, they're going to be out of the game in 10 years. And Charlie being Charlie, he said, they're either going to be unable to swing a club or they'll be dead. He said, there just won't be these guys anymore, these people. So he said, but the thing that gives him hope, he said, we have to change the way we look at how golf will get to new players. And it's not just going to be on the golf course. Sure, people take their kids to the course, but it's kind of up in the air as to whether they'll click in. He said, we have to get used to the fact that it's going to come from new technology, and that includes video games that they can play on tablets, because that's a huge deal with kids. And he said, and technology of places like Topgolf. And when he said it at the time, it was before I went over to the new one here, it made sense to me. But when I was over there and I said, he's right. This is the way to get new people into the game. It doesn't mean everybody's going to go and become a golfer. But I think the impact of it, and the fact that they can build these smaller ones now, these 72-bay ones, that's what really excited me, because cities are one thing. But obviously there's tons of places around the country that are not cities. And now that Topgolf understands if you have a certain segment of the population, they can go ahead and put these in there. And I think for places that have winter and you can't golf for 4 or 5 months, I mean, to me, it's almost an unlimited horizon. So I was really excited to have the one here in Myrtle Beach. They have unbelievable food. They do that differently than most places people go to. They have great teams. They have the biggest friggin' TV I've ever seen in a sports bar. It's 36 feet by 27 feet.
Wow. That's
and
crazy.
You can break it up into 12 separate screens or keep it as one big screen. And I got to tell you, I went to watch a Duke, North Carolina game at the end of the season in there, and it's a big TV. But it's great. It's a great place to hang and just go for a couple hours with your friends and your family and just have a good time. So I think it's really, really impressive.
Mitch, one of the things that you and I were talking about yesterday, and you were gracious enough to share a picture just a moment ago, not that long ago, I should say. And this weekend, I have the privilege of interviewing Brent Dornford, who is the brand manager for Old Head Golf Links over in Ireland. And folks, if you want to see one of the most amazing pieces of property that you can imagine a golf course being built on, it's a peninsula that reaches about 2 miles out into the Atlantic Ocean. Go online to oldhead.com. Take a look for yourself. And Mitch, when you and I were talking yesterday, you're not only familiar with Old Head, you played there. Talk about that.
Well, I'm fortunate to have a great friend here in Myrtle Beach who I've done a lot of golf business with over the years, named Paul Himmelsback. And Paul and his wife, Judy, have a place in Bantry on the southwest coast of Ireland. And so my wife Ava and I have been over there 4 or 5 times. And one of the great things is that we just hop in a car. And as you know, if you're in Scotland or England or Ireland, you can hit a number of golf courses within a few days. And we had been to near Paul's house. We had already played Waterville and Ballybunion and Killarney, and Bantry Bay is right there. And he said, we're going to go out to Old Head. And said, fine, great. He said, it'll blow your mind. And it did. And like you said, it's unlike anything you could ever imagine somebody putting a golf course on. It's 300 feet down to the ocean from this cliff peninsula. 9 of the holes are actually on the edge of the cliff around the outside. And it's the kind of place that's so stunning that you have to kind of remind yourself to play golf, because the views are off the charts. The holes are fantastic. It's got a lighthouse. It's the history of Kinsale, which is where it is 1,000 years old. So there's tons of history there. The Lusitania, that's where it was sunk during the First World War, which got the U.S. into the war. There's a lot of stuff going on there. But once you start playing golf, and I had one of those days, like I told you, Chris, I had one of those stupid golf days where for some unknown reason at that particular point, the weather was, the guy in the pro shop said you can come here for 100 years and not have a day like today. There was no wind, which is just silly. I mean, you're sticking out into the middle of the ocean. And there was no wind, and it was just a stunning day. And from the first hole, I made an unbelievable up and down over a bunker on the first hole for par. And I wound up coming to 18, and I was even. And I had shot an even par round once in my life before that. And I came to 18 even, and I said, okay, just keep playing. And I hit a great drive, and I had a second shot in that was about 160 yards uphill. And like I said, there was no wind, so I just figured, okay, and it's a huge green, and the pin was kind of in the back third. And at that point, I can't do it anymore, but at that point, I was hitting my 5-iron about 170. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to hit the 5, and I'm going to get it up there on the green and go from there. And I hit a great shot, what I thought was a great shot, and it just came up short on the green, but it came up on the first third of the green. And then I 3-putted for bogey. So, but the day itself was, I told you I have the picture on the wall in my office. I look at it 50 times a day, and I'm as happy as I was when I was there every time I look at that picture. It's, if anybody's going over or making plans to go to Ireland, there's no shortage of unbelievable golf courses, obviously, there. But if you can get to Old Head, it'll be an experience that you won't forget it. You'll just remember it for the rest of your life.
Mitch, just a couple more before I let you go. But you wrote about a very scary 8 seconds that happened to you a few months ago. Talk about what that was and what you learned from the experience.
Are you talking about that 2-footer I missed, or?
No. I'm talking about the one that almost had all of us in a world of hurt.
Yeah. Well, I was just I was walking the dog with my wife out in front of the house. We had just gone for a long walk with Louie, our dog, and she had the dog on a leash. And all of a sudden, I got incredibly beyond dizzy. Kind of like when you stand up too fast and the blood rushes from your head. And I sat down on the ground, and then I laid back down. Got up after a little while, was very shaky, went in the house, happened again about 10 minutes later, and I said, let's go to the emergency room. And obviously it's a much longer story, but while I was in the emergency room, my heart decided it wanted to take a break for 8 seconds. And I opened my eyes. My wife was screaming, and I said, what are you screaming about? And she said, because your eyes rolled back in your head and you were speaking in tongues. And wow! Luckily, they had me all wired up, and the nurses came running in, and they kind of said, okay, and the doc came in, and he said, all right, you're the way he put it was, he said, you're old enough to remember the distributor cap on a car that fires signals to the spark plugs to tell them to go. And he said, we have one of those in our heart, right in the middle of our heart, that sends the electric signals to the muscles of your heart to contract. He said, and yours doesn't work anymore. He said, yours is bad. So they put a pacemaker in, and it's set at 60 beats a minute. It'll never go below that, because it was right before I kind of left for 8 seconds, it was at 36, and then it went down. And it's really not supposed to be below 60 unless you're a marathon runner, which, as you know, I am. So I was kind of surprised all the
Right.
But I was really lucky. I was lucky I was home. I was lucky I wasn't driving my car. I was lucky on every front you can think of. And it was a Sunday late afternoon, and by Monday late afternoon, I had a pacemaker, and by Tuesday I was home. And outside of not being able to raise my left arm for 2 months above my shoulder, life went on, and I'm here talking to you. So all the other stuff we talk about pales in comparison to just being lucky to be here.
Yes, it does. And we're all very lucky that you are still here and we are having this conversation right now. So thank God for all of those things.
Yeah. Every golfer will understand that after that episode, when I realized I was going to be okay and they were going to take care of it, before the operation or anything else, when I comforted my wife and I said, it's going to be fine, and I thought it was going to be fine, what do you think the next things I thought about were? Golf.
Golf?
It started running through my mind that Darren and I had scheduled some podcasts. Did I have anything? Did we have any trips coming up that I wouldn't be able to do? And the reason I say it wasn't kind of a conscious weird thing. It was just I realized how big a part of my life for the last 40 years golf is and has been. And once everything was fine, and like I said, once my wife was okay and I was okay, then I started going back to the thing other than my family that I love the most, and that's golf.
Wow. So, Mitch, tomorrow is National Golf Day. So I have to imagine you're going to be out on a golf course somewhere. Where are you spending it?
I have some work, some business I have to take care of up in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is about 75 miles from me. And so this afternoon I made a call to a friend of mine who's the head pro at Wilmington Municipal Golf Course. If any of your listeners there in that area get over to Wilmington Municipal Golf Course is a Donald Ross course. That when I first played it in my acting days, I was doing a job in Wilmington. Somebody says, have you played the Ross course? And I said, what Ross course? And they said, Wilmington Muni. I said, get out of here. They said, no, really. So I went over. I think it cost $12.
Wow.
And it was in kind of rough shape, but it was Donald Ross all the way. And John Fote, who's a great architect from the West Coast, who did Pumpkin Ridge and some other places. John Fote came in and did a restoration and a great job. So it is an amazing municipal golf course right in the heart of Wilmington, North Carolina. Still ridiculously cheap. I think they charge $30 to play it. And it's a fantastic golf course. So I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do my business about 1:00, and then I'm going to go over and see my friend Dave, and I will be communing with Donald Ross with my hickories for National Golf Day.
Mitch, remind our listeners again how they can stay up to date with all the great things you're doing. Listen to your podcasts and read all the articles. You're not, as you and I were talking yesterday, you don't write as often as you used to, but what you do have out there is fantastic stuff. Talk about how we can listen and read.
Well, I appreciate you saying it. What we are lucky to have, again, golftripx.com is the website, and we are incredibly lucky to have not only kind of our own writers, but some outside writers doing work. But I have to mention Eric Hart, who's one of the most well-traveled golf writers I've ever come across, who's got unbelievable content, hidden gems in Ireland. He's doing a series on the best short courses in the United States. All 50 states are represented. It's a mind-boggling piece of work. He's got a series on Alabama golf. That's a multi-part series on things to do and places to stay and what to eat and where to go in Alabama. Ryan Ballingy, as I mentioned, is a great writer, and Darren Bunch has some great stuff up there. So if you go to golftripx.com is the website, social media, it's at Golf Trip Experts on Twitter and Instagram. So you can find us on all those places. How about me?
How about you?
I'm me. Me. I'm at Mitch Laurance. It's Laurance on Twitter and Instagram, too. So I so appreciate you, Chris. I tell you this every time we get to talk, but I so appreciate you and everything you do for all of us who love the game and how giving you are to your guests. And you're a gem, my friend. And I have to tell you, my brother says the same thing. He said to say hello. As he does every Sunday morning at 8:03.
Which he really does, and I appreciate that very much about Matthew. And you know, I listen to he and Perry religiously every Sunday morning at 8:03 a.m.
I know.
It is my 8:03 a.m. tea time. I love you guys. You're fantastic. I can't thank you enough for the generosity you have for coming back on the show as frequently as you do, Mitch. You're you say I'm a gem. I think you're a gem, and I can't tell you how much you mean to me and how much I enjoy all the things that you do. You're absolutely fantastic, my friend.
Well, right back at you. You're a gem. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Let's
Take
get
care, Mitch.
out and actually play some golf soon. How about if we play some golf soon? Let's end with that.
Yes, that would. I know. I'd love to have you here, and I think we both need to go out and check out the new Bobby Jones golf course here in Atlanta.
Oh, I'm dying. I am dying to get over there.
Yeah, I am as well. So we need to go do that, and Chattanooga's not that far. So
okay, man.
Let me know, my friend. Looking forward to it.
I'll talk to you. Thanks, Chris.
All right, see you, Mitch. See you, Mitch.
Bye.
That's the great Mitch Laurance, folks, and I'm telling you, go out onto their site again, Golf Trip X, the letter X as in experts.com, and check it out. And if you're interested in that Sweetens Cove shootout, you can link right to it from their site. Again, if you go on to golftripx.com and click on the play tab, and then they've got Golf Trip X events, and then there's some links to more information about what they've got coming up there in August. And like I say, the podcast is great, Talking Golf Getaways. The articles are fantastic. So a lot of really great content there for you. And Mitch and Darren are putting out new podcasts all the time. And I really enjoyed listening to both parts of that interview with Rob Collins and Sweetens Cove. It was really great stuff. And Rob is, as Mitch was saying, really enjoyable to listen to, as of course Mitch and Darren are as well. But the stories that Rob told and the history and all the things that they did there at Sweetens Cove, absolutely spectacular stuff. So look forward to catching up with Mitch again real soon, and hopefully, like I said, getting to tee it up with him. That would be the highlight of the year. All right, folks, time for me to put a bow on this episode of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks go out to Cameron Beckman and Mitch Laurance for joining me tonight. Please give me your thoughts. Check out our page over on Facebook, Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro. You can give me a comment, a like, whatever you have. If you've got a question for a guest that we've had here on the show in the past, or one that we have coming up, and you can see our guest schedule on our website, nextonthetee.net. Please let me know there as well. Glad to get that question answered for you. Folks, this show airs every Tuesday night from, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time. You can check out our website, like I say, nextonthetee.net, to see who some of our past guests have been, and links to some of our previous episodes. And we also link back over to our site on Podbean, because we've got all our archived episodes available for you there as well. So you can check out any of our, over 200, we're getting close to actually 300 episodes available. And we, if you've got the 60 to 90 minutes to listen to a full episode, we've got them for you there. We also try to cut up our guest segments. So if you only have 15 or 20 minutes, we have those segments available for you to listen to over there as well. Folks, can't thank you enough for choosing to listen to this show tonight. We really appreciate the fact that you are making this Next on the Tee a part of your golfing content. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.
You've been listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA pros and top instructors and media members go to tell their stories. Join us the same time every Tuesday to hear more stories about the game we love, from people who love sharing those stories with you. It's all about the great game of golf. It's all about